Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today I'll be checking out a track from an act named Children of the Void. It's their self-titled track, and if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on YouTube, on their YouTube channel. It is the second song of our upcoming debut album Children of the Void, official music video for the new single Children of the Void. So, because we reviewed previous works of theirs, and I'm keen to hear more. So we got and listen through his track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Hell yeah, straight into it with the bass drop, double kicks, harmonized guitars. They're not screwing around, are they? Such range with the vocals, going for those lows, those low growls to the high shrieks there. The guitars kind of simplifying what they were doing, going from those leads to those kind of distorted lower end riffs there to kind of contrast it. And the drums and bass kind of going down as well to match. Pretty amazing, Great vocal technique. It's nice to have a lead solo here, I suppose. Relatively respectful to the way the rest of the instruments are playing with its what I mean by that is I like when lead guitarists can take, this is something that took me a long time to learn as a guitarist, keeping things relatively at the same pace as the rest of the instruments, to not kind of overplay and make it seem like an ego project, because it's a whole band thing, it's teamwork, right? Restraint is what I'm going for there. Yeah. It's gorgeous though. Hell yeah, man. Those 7 or 8 strings sound fierce. Really tight distortion on them, man. Tempo switch? What I want to sort of talk about as well is the fact that they managed to go between several different time signatures. They just had an abrupt tempo change, but they made it smooth. That is not an easy thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. That is a difficult thing to pull off and make it make sense with the rest of the track, because it can just stagger it, There are some genres where that's borderline illegal, like electronic dance music. It's very difficult to get away with that when their purpose is to keep things a constant kind of pace for most parts. But that's the flexibility you have with metal, man, so enjoy it. Solo time, obviously. That was a tasty solo, actually. I enjoyed that. That is such a spicy little drum fill, man. That was dope. I like the sassiness of it. We're not trying to overplay it. There are lyrics that have been provided, so we'll check out those at the end. Great modulation with these leads. No, that was really charming. That was a great song. I'm really happy with that. Yeah. If we go back there for a second, I just want to catch this. Go to the end. Yeah, children, we light the way. I'm pretty sure I've reviewed We Light the Way before, so it's great to hear more of them. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Children of the Void. It's the self-titled track. What do I think this track is about? Well, before I get into that, I want to say that this is a really beautiful video, a music video, and I don't really typically comment on the music videos that I watch in these reviews simply because I'm more kind of knowledgeable about reviewing music. But the scenery, like if I go here, look how beautiful that is, man. They played here and it's gorgeous. You know, and they played in the snow, and there are all sorts of scenes and shots, and I want to give them a shout out. They did a great job with this music video. It's wonderful. So we got the lyrics here. We've got, in the darkness, watch from afar, uprise and downfall, seen it all. You know, trust and compassion, where has it gone? Greed and desire, is it time to atone? You know, it's interesting stuff, like really big philosophical concepts. Humankind by war and beliefs, all the lies, hollow worlds, and the void. Children of the void. Are we talking about, so the children of the void, is this the children of the people born into a world like that? Is that the kind of game we're going for here, you know? Hear me, feel me, see me, the children of the void. Yeah, exactly. Basically, the children of the void are the consequences of all the kind of complete guttery that's been going on in the world around them, and this music is basically discussing that kind of stuff, and I think that's kind of dope, if I'm not completely mistaken. You know, from your worst nightmare around it spins, vicious cycle, the weaker the prey. Yep, that makes sense to me, you know. So getting back to the conclusion, I think this track, after listening through the lyrics, is about someone who is basically letting you know about the consequences of the behavior or the actions of people maybe in power or those who are causing all these miseries within the world. And they're discussing it from the perspective of the people who are actually having to deal with the consequences of those, you know. I kind of liken it to maybe the next generation of kids who are going to have to grow up in like a world where like there's a whole lot of pollution and stuff like that, for example, where they're just going to have to sort of struggle with the consequences of the behavior of people in previous generations and that kind of cycle and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to it, obviously, here. You know, we're talking about themes like poverty and like corruption and stuff like that. And I think that's really good stuff to write about. There's nothing wrong with talking about this kind of stuff in music. I think especially in stuff like metal where it's pretty heavy, so having a more aggressive kind of stance and stuff kind of makes sense. And, you know, in addition to the storytelling, I think that we had, you know, we had a good time with the vocals, you know, and a good time, and what I mean is they were appropriate for what the story was discussing after reading through that. The words did come through clearly. I did hear a fair few of them clearly, and that's not often a thing you can always have as a given with metal. Sometimes you have vocalists who just really just aren't able to get the words through clearly just because they haven't developed their kind of vocal fry technique with the growls or the shrieks enough. But that wasn't really the case with Children of the Void. You know, they managed to nail it in this one. I was very happy with how the words came through and the technique there. We didn't really have like vocal melodies or harmonies because it was predominantly based on like the kind of more kind of aggressive styles there, but I don't think we needed to because there was so much color going on from a lot of the rest of the other instruments in the mix. Didn't really necessitate it. You know, you could almost have that more kind of noise-based sort of like tone there as a way of having an equilibrium to how beautiful some of those guitar harmonies are, for example. Yet the vocal style made sense, clearly polished and experienced on the mic, and yeah, got no complaints about it. He sounded angry, and that made sense with what the lyrics were about. I think in addition to that, what we had going on with the song itself at 3 minutes 52, just underneath that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, I think that's a very smart idea because you go past 4 minutes, even if you've got lots of variation with the difference, even the time signatures or tempos, the different guitar riffs, the bass and drum parts and the vocals, you really kind of looking to need to start a new section at that point to really kind of get people across the finish line. Maybe a new theme to discuss or something like that, as a lot of people are used to having shorter songs. Even nowadays with a lot of bands, modern metal bands, having to sort of like slim down their tracks because they can't assume that people are going to necessarily have the attention span to listen through it. But I think that Not that these guys couldn't do a long form track. I think Children of the Void are clearly at a level they could do that. It's just smart to have tracks that are within a 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. But anyways, moving on from that, I think there was a lot of range to what was going on with the various kind of power chordal bits there, the lead guitar parts, the solos that went on after the first chorus, and then a little bit more elaborate one afterwards. It was really eloquently voiced. I think there was a lot of variety with the different riffs there that, again, did provide a very colorful contrast to the growls and shrieks that were going on from the vocal parts. The bass line there, and also to be fair, it was almost like a mixture of like In Flames and Opeth. I could hear like Opeth with like time signature changes and stuff like that. The 7-string parts were so like heavy and I hate to say it, but you know, just because it's a bit of a meme at this point, but calling them brutal. There are some brutal guitar parts. The bass line, you know, down the bottom as well was really fantastic for kind of continuing to push that out. You know, it was sensational how heavy the bass was in this, but without being too overpowering or repugnant. It was still well balanced. And I think in addition to that, what we had going on with the drums as well, with the different tom fills, like there was one tom fill in there I really, really liked. And I think that it was really clever because there was like room for like you know, we could have done some really kind of crazy stuff, but we didn't need to. We had a similar rhythm played. We went between 8ths and 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fastest one was 16ths. We could have done 30 seconds or 16th triplets. We didn't overplay. And I think that's because the drummer was wanting to kind of had a great chemistry with the other instrumentalists in the mix, and they understood what they wanted to do, which was to write a song where all of them stuck together, the riffs and chops and kind of like grooves plugged together really well, and the vocals could just sit on top of it and simmer. And that's what we had here. We had a well-written song with like verse chorus structures, you know, and then we had like solo sections as well, and that was enough. You know, we had an interesting intro section as well. We had a bell curve in the middle where things got heavy, but never too much. We stayed relatively consistent for the most part, and it was just great as well, on a final note, to have some instrumental parts where we just didn't have the vocals the entire time. It was a lot of content in there from the storytelling perspective as per the lyrics section, but at the same time, we never overstayed our welcome. We had enough variety to keep listeners engaged, and ultimately, I think that the structuring and composition was well done, indicating an understanding of music theory and composition that I'm very happy with, and that is really kind of a necessary thing these days. But, you know, finally, the studio, the theme. What did the theme sound like? It sounded almost like glorious, as if like there's a sense of sadness in there, but also like a sense of glory in the understanding of the rise of the children of the void, if that makes sense, you know. It's them crying out, trying to kind of fight back against the power and tyranny going on. It's almost like a defiance. That's what the theme sounded like to me. The main kind of riffs, harmonies, and melodies within the track. And I think that makes a lot of sense because we kind of went back to the the triplet dun 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 dun. You know, we had like some interesting kind of lower power chord parts or like drop tune parts to kind of coincide with the hook, you know, areas. And we kind of like had that point of defiance and we went bam down. We kind of slammed it down and tightened it up. And I think that the theme made sense with the vocals and the story and things were tight. And I don't think there was a note out of place. I mean, finally, the studio recording, mixing, mastering was great. I enjoyed it. I think, you know, with a really tight performance, you know, we basically just need to really kind of handle the studio, you know, the EQing, filtering, etc. Just get some really great takes there. There's one point where the track like paused for a second, so I'm wondering if that was a deliberate thing or whether they like took another take from that point. Like they recorded the next take from that part, whether it was deliberate pause or not, but either way, it's fine. The guitars are nicely double tracked and present in the mix. The drums had a great, you can hear all the toms and cymbals and stuff clearly, and that was easy to kind of ascertain what was going on. The bass was well balanced. The vocals, you know, with the growls and the shrieks and stuff like that, they went between low and high ranges effortlessly, and I also think they were really well controlled with the pitching, filtering, as well as the you know, the compression on that to keep things relatively balanced there, because you do need that with growls, bit of compression there just to kind of keep it even. I mean, you know, there were no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spotter. It was nice and wide in the stereo field, and I think, you know, there was dynamic range. You know, things did come down a little bit sometimes. It was heavy, you know, so it wasn't like super big shifts between loud and quiet bits, but there was enough of a subtle difference there to kind of keep things without being too samey. And I think, you know, finally it was nice and loud without pumping, and, you know, so limiting compression was sorted. I mean, basically, this is my review of Children of the Void's self-titled track off of their upcoming album, which, as I understand it, is titled our debut album Children of the Void. It is the band Children of the Void from their song Children of the Void off of the upcoming album Children of the Void, the debut album. And I hopefully enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.